Hello, and welcome to Virtual Coffee Chats with Companies. My name is Sandy Oman, and we are here today to talk with Leonardo DRS, and Colleen Faria is going to talk with us about Applicant Tracking Systems.
Yes,
Colleen, why don't you
thank you
tell
so
us a little bit about it?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So just a little overview about our company, just to get started, and a little bit about me as well. I've been with the company for 3.5 years now. We are a government contractor. Primarily our products target are for the Army. We are a mid-tier government contractor. We're located in Melbourne. We also have locations in Fort Walton Beach, Tampa, with our other business units as well, and throughout the US. So that's just a very brief overview of us. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about ATSs, or what's known as Applicant Tracking Systems. So if you've ever applied to a position ever, it's probably gone to a system called an Applicant Tracking System. Just a little bit about that. What it does is it takes the information that you put into it and kind of organizes the information into somewhat of an application. It might also ask you different questions, qualifying questions, and you can also upload your resume into the system. The system is then used by recruiters to look at resumes, to look at your qualifications in match to the job. So once you put your application into an ATS, you can also use that to apply directly to different positions. And what I always recommend is, if there's a job that you are interested in, even if you're not feeling like it's 100% matched, if it's an 80% match to your qualifications and education, go ahead and apply to it. It doesn't hurt to apply. So a little bit about applicant tracking systems. I'm going to go over some misconceptions about that, and what you should and should not include in your resume. One thing to note, a lot of ATSs do not read PDFs. So your resume should be in a Word document. Also try to avoid overly graphic type of resumes with a lot of different sections. They usually aren't read by ATSs that well, maybe the more complicated ones, but some of the older ones that company don't have that ability. So your resume won't be clearly able to be read. And so I reiterate that all the time. Make sure it's in a Word document, easy to read, and try not to use a lot of additional graphics or spacing in your resume. So again, what an applicant tracking system is it's just a file storage device used to keep our resumes organized, so that managers and recruiters can view the resume and qualify you into the position. What it is not an artificial intelligence designed to make hiring decisions. So it does sometimes, we'll get into keywords and things like that and how important those are, but it doesn't do that. As a recruiter, we will do that. And so filling your resume with a bunch of random keywords is not going to be the objective of using the ATS and uploading a resume that has, not doesn't have any applicable experience in it for that role. So kind of what the ATS looks like to us when you apply, we'll see all your applications, we'll see qualifying questions, we'll also be able to open your resume and view that in that ATS. From there, we'll go ahead and qualify you into the role, and we'll move you to the manager view, and then the manager will then review your resume and go on to the next step of phone screening. Most companies have ATS systems, and some of them do show the keywords that you probably have heard of, but ATSs generally don't do that. In reality, that is a very expensive way to have an ATS, and ATSs are already very expensive. It's a software that has to be updated ever so often in order to keep up with different changes in how you apply and things like that. So there's little tricks and things like that that I've seen on the internet, and I'm just going to debunk that. If you try to put keywords at the bottom of your resume, it will not do anything. We will see it, and you will probably be disqualified based on that, because you don't want to start off with a lie. So if you're just trying to fill your resume with keywords that aren't applicable to your experience, I would just not do that, if that makes sense. So also, when it comes to the job description and when you're applying, don't try to just match the job description word for word, but do look at the job description and see what kind of experiences you can add to your resume in order to kind of make that connection. You can also do that in preparation during the interview. Once you get an interview, look at the job description, look at your resume, formulate some questions and answers, and kind of look at what the job description is asking for, and look at your resume and see where that lies in your resume. Some other myths. The use of an ATS means you can't be creative with your resume without it being ruined, and that's not true. You know, ATSs do only generally read Word documents. However, if you try to be too creative with the borders, with a lot of resume generators that they have on Word, sometimes they look really, really nice, but just this week, I had a gentleman who applied to a position and we couldn't read his resume, so it had to be sent to me in email. That just creates extra work for everyone. So although it can be creative, especially if you're into design and things like that, and that's the type of job you're applying for, just try to make it as simplified as possible, and don't use a lot of columns or anything that will mess up with the spacing. You just want your resume to be, and your resume is the first thing that a recruiter sees, so this should be a good format of your skill sets. And you know, make sure you have other people read your resume as well. Have a couple different people to get different opinions on maybe how to edit and update your resume so that it's making the best first impression. Makes sense, I think. Let's see here. So, ladies, have you heard anything about ATSs and just different questions from your students about ATSs?
Yeah, they feel like it's a black hole. Okay. They apply online, they don't hear back, or they get an instant denial.
Okay. So try not to get discouraged, especially when applying to positions. Like I said, if you feel like you're meeting the qualifications of the job based on your education and skill set, about 80%, go ahead and apply. Most of the other qualifications can be learned or trained on the job, especially as a student. You might not have a lot of real world experience per se, but you have other qualities such as you know, volunteer work that you've done or internships that you've completed, and those things can also add value to your resume. So don't feel like it's a black hole. Recruiters do get a lot of applications, especially for internships. Our one mechanical engineering internship just opened last week. We have over 120 applicants so far. But I do look at every single one of them. So just keep that in mind, that we will look at your resume. Don't get discouraged with denial letters. There are only so many internships per company, per season. So, you know, you just want to be able to stand out with the best resume that you can. And just remember, that's the first, and it could be the only way that you're going to reach out to a recruiter. So you want to make sure that resume is comprehensive and really addresses, you know, your skills and experiences.
My question, Colleen, is,
Sure.
and this may be from a employer standpoint also, but what if about a candidate who applies for like tons and tons of jobs through the ATS system? Does that look bad upon them if they're applying to so many requisitions?
So there's a few different thoughts on this, and I love delving into this question because although it can be taken negatively by some managers, that they apply to a lot of different roles within an organization, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if it's within your scope. So if it's within your scope of education, you don't want, if you're an aerospace engineer degree, you don't want to be applying to a senior electrical engineer role right off the bat, you know, if you're a current student. You know, you should be able to look at the qualifications, and if, like I said, an 80% match is really what we look for. That's what I push on to the manager. Just make sure it's within your scope. If you're just applying to janitor roles, IT roles, you know, whatever you can, that I think can be taken negatively. And we do see every application that is made with that resume. Our ATS, by the way, does not allow you to go in with one resume and then apply to the same role with the same resume. So you actually have to go into the system, create a new profile, and then apply. But one application per position is sufficient. The only time that would be acceptable is if you were having trouble uploading the resume, if it wasn't the right format, or if you've updated the resume and made significant changes. Now, some ATSs do recognize new resumes for the same application. So just keep that in mind as well. Don't freak out. It'll be fine, I promise. Just keep that in mind when applying to our company, that the resume that you apply with is going to be the only one that we will recognize as the application.
So one of the things that we have told students over the years is that companies might do a keyword search on a resume. Like if they've got a ton of resumes, how do they scan them down or manage them down to a manageable number for a position when they look at them? And maybe they do reverse engineering, they use a keyword that's not maybe common for that job position. So I'm not going to use engineer, but I might use mechanical or something like that. How do you manage a large number of resumes for an application or for a position?
So keyword searches are interesting. It's a great tool for recruiters to highlight certain things that we're looking for in the resume. So for instance, the keywords that you include, we can do a Control F and basically search the whole resume. That's why it's important that it's in a Word document, because that's one of the only ways to do that. We can take a PDF and save it to a readable a way to read it and to search, but it's a lot more difficult. And some recruiters don't have the time to do that. So you want it to make it as easy as possible for a recruiter to find the keyword. A lot of times we won't be doing that you know, if we see the information right away, if your resume is written in a way that we can see that, we won't have to do a keyword search through the whole resume. Also, at this point in your career, your resume should be 1 to 2 pages. Coming out of college with maybe 1 to 2 years of experience in other types of jobs, that would be sufficient. Now, if you're coming out of the military, you might have a 2 to 3 page resume. And at that point, a keyword search would be very helpful as a recruiter. We do keyword searches also to search for passive candidates. So if you're filling your resume just with a bunch of different terms that aren't really applicable, then we're probably not searching for them. Looking at the job description, a lot of times it will just be like a software. For instance, we use Creo, our mechanical engineers use Creo as their CAD software. So that might be a keyword search I would use, and I would just do Control F and type in Creo, and then it will highlight it in the resume. Now, with that, you have to be careful with spelling and how you spell certain keywords, because if you misspell them, then we're never going to find it. Also, when you put, for instance, ATS, if I put ATS in my resume as my experience, I also want to type it out as Applicant Tracking System. And that's just another way to help the recruiter out, really. If we're going to look for ATS, we might also have to look for Applicant Tracking System or Applicant to see that in the resume. So
to piggyback, sorry.
Sure.
I've heard a little like way to get around the keyword that some students have figured out is to make that type in white. What are your thoughts on that, and how misleading is it?
So that's lying, and we don't do that. If you do that, you'll probably not be considered. You'll be dispositioned. So I mentioned that a little earlier. That is a trick I've heard on the internet, and you want to avoid that. So don't do that. Some things that you definitely should include in your resume, though, are your name, your phone number, your email address, and current city of residence. Nowadays, adding your entire address, home address, is not necessary, I feel. Also, if you're applying, if you're an international student, make sure you include whatever the best way to reach you. So if you don't have, if you're working abroad or living abroad, just using ways that we can reach you, like an email address, and make sure that email address is professional. A lot of times just your first and last name as your email address can make a big difference versus, I love skateboarding 5520 at Yahoo. It just makes a bigger impact, and it's easier to read and use. So I definitely encourage every student to either use their school email address or an email address that you check often.
Okay.
And then, some other things to include as an intern, I would definitely recommend you put your degree, your graduation date, your GPA, and any relevant coursework you think that would be applicable to the job that you're applying to. So those are all what I look for in a internship resume. If your GPA is below 3.0, I would leave it off of your resume. But again, you'd have to be forthcoming about your GPA. We do have requirements here at Leonardo DRS for internships. You have to be a junior or senior. And you have 5-year programs, or do you do 4-year programs for your engineering roles?
Technically, it's a 5-year program,
Okay.
but sometimes it gets pulled out a little bit longer. You know, if they do an
Okay, it
internship or
depends.
they do a co-op or they have to retake some classes. They didn't have a
So,
great first year. So yeah.
yeah. So putting an estimated graduation date would help us determine if you're a junior or senior. We just like to hire juniors or seniors because they can come on site and start contributing right away to and helping and working on projects and things like that, in getting that experience that an internship should. So that's kind of what we do, and that's what I look for. Things not to include in your resume: your full home address, your race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, your picture. Don't include a picture of yourself. And the reason why I say not to include any of those things, it can create bias, and you don't want anybody to make assumptions, and this is also not necessary for a position. None of those things are things that we would qualify or disqualify you on in an application. So just ignore it. I also say don't include hobbies that aren't volunteer work, aren't part of the school. If you just like underwater basket weaving, leave that off.
What
You
if
know,
it's like RF, radio frequency, building
that would
radio
be
frequency
totally
models
fine.
cars?
And it's not a hard stop either. If you're really passionate about baseball and you're, you know, part of a
Intramural
club,
sports. Mhm.
or a club or whatever, or sports, I think those are beneficial. But saying like, I like anime, it's not going to do anything except, take up space on your resume that could be otherwise used for other words, basically. So I just say you can take that off. Any associations, volunteer work, sports, anything you do on campus, I would definitely include that as a hobby or extracurricular on your resume, especially if you don't have a lot of work experience.
How do you feel about an objective where they put the company name, maybe the position they're applying to, versus a profile or a summary of qualifications versus nothing?
So as a recruiter, I like an objective. When you get into, a professional level of applying to positions and you have more experience, I think an objective is very necessary. Objectives can also just state, I am a current aerospace engineering student at Embry-Riddle, seeking a summer internship for Leonardo DRS. I think that would totally be acceptable. What you don't want to do is get really wordy. If you don't feel the objective is adding any value to your resume, just take it off. Cover letters aren't necessary. The best practice nowadays is not to have a cover letter. I recommend a cover letter only if you're switching careers or locations and you're trying to explain that to the recruiter without adding it to your resume. So a small objective, maybe 2 sentences, is really all that I would say is necessary. It's also kind of nice to have your objectives, on your LinkedIn page, or a little brief explanation of
About you.
a little bit about you, a little bit about like, I will be graduating and seeking a full-time position after my graduation in 2022. Something like that would be, I think, matching to your resume would be nice. And again, I think your LinkedIn profile should also reflect your resume. LinkedIn is a great tool that most recruiters use to search for candidates nowadays. You know, we get a lot of applications from interns and new grads, so we might not be having to do those searches at that time. But as you get into a more professional level of experience, you're going to want to add that in and just make it as professional as possible. So, you know, like a nice headshot, you know, not you in a bathing suit on the beach in Maui or from spring break. You know, that's not, you know, going to make an impression. So try to keep like your resume professional as well as your LinkedIn profile.
I have a question, and other companies have told us this, that like their applicant tracking system talks to like a CRM or software that they use for recruiting. And so, you know, then they talk. And so when they look at candidates and see, oh, this candidate, you know, attended a bunch of our events at this school, that type of thing, so that you're able to kind of see the larger picture of the candidate. Do you use anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that system?
Yeah, our system is pretty basic when it comes to ATSs in general. ATSs are very expensive. Our ATS in particular does other things like track goals, and you're able to do performance reviews in the system. So on top of how we use the system, it's also used for other things. Some ATSs can piggyback or combine with other softwares to do that type of thing. We don't. You know, our applicant tracking system is pretty basic, but other more complicated or larger companies and organizations like Google can be, might do that. They might have additional softwares that they add on or have additional capabilities. Our ATS is the greatest and best, I will admit. But we did just do an upgrade, so that's nice.
Awesome.
So that's kind of how our ATS works. And you can expect, unless you're applying to a very large corporation, that their ATS might be a little more primitive. And that's why you want to make your resume as readable as possible.
Okay. Colleen, I was talking to another company about their process in using an applicant tracking system. And one of the things they shared was that the last resume, if you're applying to multiple positions, the last resume you upload is the one that they see. So tailoring it significantly different from each from other resumes,
right, might
not be very helpful.
I would have multiple resumes for different types of jobs that you're looking for. You're absolutely right. In our ATS, once you apply with a resume, it will save that resume under that profile. You would have to create a new profile and upload a new resume to apply to with a different one. So keeping that in mind, I think on, you know, students should have more than one resume. And I also suggest if you've used a resume for 2 or 3 weeks and you haven't gotten any responses, have a look at it, update it, change it. It doesn't hurt to change things around. Just know that when you do apply to a different role within an organization, you may have to upload a new resume. And just keep that in mind. But once you have applied in our system, it does save that one resume. It doesn't save multiple. So.
What about using systems like JobScan to scan your resume and compare it to a job description? Is that helpful?
I have never heard of that.
Oh.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, what I know about it, it's a system, and I think you can maybe get, like, before purchasing it, which is like a monthly fee, I think you can get up to 5 scans a month free, where you take a job description and probably upload it and upload your resume, and the system will compare the job description to your resume and tell you how compatible it is and what they might be looking for from the job description. Yeah, that is
So
something that people use.
I feel like this is a tool that is trying to take the labor out of applying, and maybe it sounds like it could be a good thing, just to get an idea of what the employer is looking for. However, I can see drawbacks, and when you get to like very trendy, like startup positions, they might have job descriptions that aren't really going to just have bullets of qualifications. It's going to be like, we're looking for someone who's ready to enter the workforce in this cool culture. And, you know, although we do have a cool culture here, you know, we don't formulate our job descriptions that way. So I really think it depends. I would save your money and I would do the work yourself. I would talk to friends or a career coach. I know you probably have on campus some helpful writing, or I don't know, maybe even classes on how to write a resume. There's also YouTube, and just looking and making it a reflection of your skill set, I think is more important than just taking a job description and trying to match it. I think taking your skill set and highlighting what you think would be a good match is a better use of your time and money, than spending money on that. If it makes you more confident in the application process, by all means, but I don't think it's a necessary tool.
Maybe you could try it a couple times and see,
Try
hey,
it.
am I on track for the type of jobs I'm applying to? And then you don't maybe have to invest in a monthly fee or something. I would say job coaches probably use that kind of thing a little more as they're helping their clients. But
Yeah. Or if
yeah.
you have like a lot of technical terms on your
Mhm.
resume. So if you're a software developer or IT background,
Or,
you know,
or
anything
entering
software.
mid-career or something
Yeah,
like that where you're going to have more
mid-career.
experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe at that point, you know, you can edit your resume for the job. Again, don't just use keywords because it's on the job description, you know, use it because it's part of your experience.
Sure, absolutely.
Anything else?
Keep talking.
Okay, keep talking. I'll keep talking. So I did want to mention, we do have post our internship positions on our website. So I recommend that you go to our website and set up automatic emails to go to you when those jobs match what you're looking for. Also, you can upload your resume without applying to positions, and you can do this with most organizations. That ATSs will just read the resume and then it becomes searchable in the system. So even if there's not a job matching what you're looking for, but you're really interested in the company, go ahead and set up your profile, put in your resume, and then you can apply later when you do match a job, and make sure you're getting those updated emails alerts. So you can do that from our website, our careers page, and it's really easy to do. Once you upload your resume, it's searchable by all recruiters in all over the world, basically, because we all use the same ATS.
So if it's not with your company, but they use the system, then it's searchable.
It's all within our company. Our ATS
your company
is used by our company. However, other ATSs across other companies might work the same way as well, where you can upload your resume and it becomes searchable but maybe you don't match a job. But all our jobs are posted. Right now, we have 6 open internship positions for the summer 2022. So go ahead and look at those opportunities. I think we have a systems engineer, electrical, mechanical, quality analyst. Have a couple more. Let me see if I can remember. Program finance, and we have another electrical engineering intern. So we have 2 of those different business units. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, could you tell us, so when we talk to students, we have different resources that we can tell them about when they're doing their internship or their job search. One is, of course, our career management system, Handshake.
Okay.
And then we have other resources for searching, of course, LinkedIn and some other job aggregators, in addition to attending a career fair, attending an event like this, or searching individual companies. If they don't know about the company, then they wouldn't know to search there. So have you posted positions? I know FIT uses Handshake, we use Handshake. Have you posted positions in Handshake before? And what's your thoughts on a student looking in Handshake for a position?
So I know that you can set up a profile just like you would a resume. And so number one, I'd recommend that you set that up. Make sure it says comprehensive as possible, matching your resume. And then once you do that, we do post positions in Handshake. I was under the impression that our ATS now uploads it automatically. However, I'm going to have to do a check on that after talking to you. So after the call, I'll make sure that all our jobs are posted to Handshake. Handshake is a great tool, to match students with employers, and just using it as much as you can, just like you would LinkedIn or any other application job search engine. So Handshake is a great tool to find internships and new grad positions. But again, going to our website, setting up the automatic emails is going to be the best way to get the position as soon as it's posted. And we do look at candidates for about a week, especially with interns. My mechanical engineering position had over 100 applicants. So we're probably going to cut off our search at the end of this week. And by next week, we're going to be narrowing down our pool of candidates. So it's very important that you apply within 24 to 48 hours. That's when most of the most qualified, most interested candidates will apply. And so after that, they kind of taper off as far as applications go. So you want to be one of those first ones that gets in to that position.
So that was actually, I was just thinking, and then you brought that up, that if you have 100 applications for a position, do
Yes.
you look through, and every recruiter is probably different, but do you look
Right.
through all 100 first and sort out the ones you liked? Or do you look until you're like, oh, I got 20 that are good, I'm going to stop there and not look at the additional ones until you've worked through those 20 to see if you want to narrow it down even further?
So it kind of goes both ways. It just depends on the applicants that we get. For me, I'm going to go through those 100, and then I might cut it off at a time versus a number. As many applications as we get, we only have one position, we only hire one person. So there's a challenge there. We do want to hire the most qualified person for the position. That goes across every position that we have, internship or otherwise. So we are looking for the best qualified candidate. Does it matter when you apply? Like I said, the most qualified candidates are going to apply as soon as it opens. And then I know they're interested because they're watching our board. So, recruiters might do some different things, but I try to look through and give everyone a chance. I am going to disqualify, by major, by GPA. Leonardo DRS is a government contractor, so we can only hire US persons, and that includes our internship roles. And then just, just making sure everything is up to date and that you're ready for the interview as well. So practice mock interviewing is important. And then, like I said, if you've reviewed your resume and it's not getting any hits, go ahead and update your resume and reapply if you can, or apply when those positions do open. But as far as resume, yeah, go ahead.
What's your impression when you're looking through those 100 resumes that we talked about, and you come up and you open up a resume and it is just crammed full of content, or it's not easy to read? Are you going to take the time to look through it, or are you going to probably like move on?
So I take 1 to 2 minutes per resume usually to look through. I'll use that Control F to find a keyword, especially on experienced or seasoned resumes. It's going to be maybe 4 or 5 pages. So that keyword search comes in handy for me as a recruiter. I can do a Control F. That just is a find button and find those keywords within that resume. If I feel it's too wordy, if it's just not a great format, I still like to give the option, but at the manager level, the manager might be taken aback from a resume like that and not want to read all of that gobbledygook. So in my particular resume, I have a summary of what I've completed, any metrics I put in there, and then I have a couple bullets about what my achievements are, and that's it. That's all I have. And that's under each job that I've had. So it kind of just flows down. One thing I will mention, when I look at intern resumes, I like to see the education right at the top. That's really what's qualifying you for an internship is your graduation date, how many, what if you're a junior or senior, and if you meet the GPA requirements. So if that's at the top, then I don't have to take a lot of time looking at all the other stuff. And I'm a speed reader, so I go through a resume really quickly. If it's too much going on, I might let the candidate know if it's good experience, but not a great resume. I'll say, hey, do you mind editing your resume to make it a little more readable? Hopefully they don't take offense to that, but I haven't had to do that much. Usually if it's looking like that, crowded kind of, it might not have the information that we want anyway. Make it concise, but don't make it so bare bones that there's no good meat to the resume. You want to fill that page. If you have a whole page for a resume, fill it up. Don't use 14 font, but fill it up with experience and skills, and make it robust. Fill it up. Sometimes I'll see like just half the page and I'm like, well, you had the whole rest of the page. Could have filled it up.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. There's a question I was going to ask you about internships. Oh, I know. So if you said you like juniors and seniors, but if the student was finishing their last semester as a sophomore, so in the fall they're going to be a junior, is that the time frame? Or are you looking for juniors that are finishing their junior year now? So rising seniors then at that point?
That is a great question. I think rising juniors is fine. That meets the qualifications. So if you're going into your junior year next year and you want a summer internship, if you've completed the coursework, I would go ahead and apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Again, It doesn't hurt to apply. because I'll go through and disqualify if it doesn't meet what we're looking for.
Okay. What's an average time frame for you to get back to a candidate on whether it's disqualify or move them or reach out to them that you want to talk to them more?
Okay, so for how we work, as soon as I qualify the candidate, so within 2 or 3 days, I'll be moving them over to the manager review. The manager then reviews the resume, and so it's really up to the whim of the hiring manager to give me the go-ahead to reach out to the candidates. Sometimes, if there's a stellar candidate, I'll go ahead and reach out to them before the manager has had a chance to. It just depends on the time that I have available and how many recs I have. A lot goes into that. But if I have the extra time, I'll go ahead and phone screen the candidate or send the questionnaire to qualify the candidate and then send it over to the manager. So I would expect the process to take 1 to 2 weeks. Once you've applied, don't get frustrated. But we have to hire our interns by a certain date so that they're ready. We require, we like our, not require, we like our interns to start on the same day, work as a group. Sometimes they'll be working with other interns, and then we also request that they complete a project, which they'll present in front of other managers. And we now have a whole schedule for interns. So it's really a program that we have now. So it gives the intern the best experience that we can provide to them, along with the experience they can gain as completing the internship. I won't mention those that have completed an internship with us usually do get hired on again, either as another intern or as a new grad. So it happens more often than not that once we've identified a candidate for 1 year, we might hire them back for additional years. And it could be a full-time position with us. That's really the idea of having an intern. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys ever do like, hey, we really liked you. Would you like to work part-time for us remote when you go back to school? Is that ever an option for what you do?
So we have brought on part-time temps. Usually they are local candidates so that they're able to work and go to school at the same time. I think you guys are only about an hour away, so that's very conducive to working a part-time position with us. We do offer hybrid type positions in some of our my mechanical engineer is a hybrid role, so that we'll be requiring them to be on site 2 days out of the week. But we do work with schedules as well. So if you can't work full time, we can work with that on a part-time basis if needed. Looks like we have a student who came in. Yeah, that's great.
Tanan, did you have any questions based on the stuff you've heard so far? I was messaging.
Thanks, Ms. Ullman. I'm just listening. I'm fine to all your brief information and comments. It's really great. Thank you.
Oh,
No problem. And if you do have any questions, just let us know. It's an open forum and you're the only student, so it's all
great opportunity.
I mean, great opportunity.
Thank you.
So if a student applies for, or a candidate applies for a position that they are overqualified for. So let's give this scenario.
Okay.
They're in a master's program,
okay,
but they haven't had much experience, work experience. So even internship experience. So educationally, they might be overqualified for an entry-level position, but experience-wise, not as qualified for a position that might want a master's degree. How would you handle a candidate like that?
So
I pay them, or?
Yeah, I have come across master degreed candidates and that have applied to my internship roles, and we love our master programs. That means they have, the experience of their education in lieu of work experience. So we love that. We've hired master degreed interns and new grads. I think it adds an edge over, our undergrad applicants. Some managers prefer that. But again, some have said, oh, well, I want to give an opportunity to someone who may not have that work experience in the past. But in your scenario, this person does not have that. So I would say education is very important. And we consider both undergrads and grad students. We also have some PhD candidates. I think when it comes to PhD, do you have the PhD program?
We do in several degrees, yeah.
Okay, when it comes to PhDs, that can be a little trickier. Usually you're working with the school on research and you don't have additional time to work outside of the school. And I think it can be hard to break through to a professional level position, new college grad. You don't really feel like a new college grad when you're a PhD student usually. So just know that if you do see the qualifications asking for experience of 2 to 3 years, at a PhD level, you probably do qualify in lieu of experience. We will take your education in lieu of that. And I would say a master's degree program, it equals about 2 years of work experience. And then I would say at a PhD level, depending on the program, 3 to 4 years of experience in lieu of, or 3 to 4 years of experience in lieu of education. Education in lieu of work experience.
Right.
That was difficult.
I knew where you're going.
Okay.
Great.
Someone.
Well, Colleen, this has been so great, such great information that I think I'm glad that Sanan was able to join us and hear a lot of that. And I think other students will be able to learn a lot from this as well. So thank you so much for your time and all your insight today. And we look forward to hopefully working with you guys some more.
Absolutely.
On campus.
We definitely want to build, and we're coming on campus soon. I just need the go ahead, but it's going to happen. I want to reiterate that it's going to happen because we're back in the office this week, and this is the first step to bringing interviews in and visiting different colleges. So you guys are definitely on my list. Thank you so much for having me, Sandy and Valerie. Sanan, thank you for joining us. Please tell your friends that you and refer back to this recording. If you have any questions for me, Sanan, please feel free to reach out. My email address is colleen.faria@drs.com. You can reach out to me there. If you want to share your resume, have me take a look at it, feel free to do so, or connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
That's a great opportunity, Sanan.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.